Welcome to Erie Shores Prepping. I'm your host, Greg. Welcome to the new subscribers and welcome to another edition of You Can't Make This Stuff Up. It must be Friday. On a fully booked flight, I'm reading from notes, on a fully booked flight and the last one out of the airport, JetBlue asked a male passenger to remove his Let's Go Brandon face mask. The male passenger complied and put on a generic blue face mask, but that wasn't good enough. The senior male flight attendant, along with the pilot, asked that passenger be removed from the plane because he created controversy. He said, I fully complied and no one is arguing with me. I'm sitting here minding my own business. It didn't matter. Because of the controversy, the pilot insisted this person made the plane late, so he has to be removed. This is the last flight out of that airport. Congress passes a $1.5 trillion spending bill with a carve-out of 14 billion additional money to help Ukraine with emergency aid. This is on top of the $10 billion already given to them to help secure their borders against Russian invasion. So now that's $24 billion in emergency aid being given to one of the top 5 most corrupt countries in the world. And yet, our debt clock is now at 30 trillion, 310 billion, 425 million and counting. Now, with the use of magic hands and everything else, instead of saying what it takes for every adult taxpayer citizen, they have now broken it down to make the number look smaller for our debt to every American citizen, including infants who are not working. Now our debt is $6,170 per year. That includes infants not even in the workforce to make the number look smaller. Magic of accounting, folks. Magic of accounting. At a joint news conference in Poland, Vice President Kamala Harris, this has got to make our allies feel wonderful. She got laughed out of Germany, so they said, let's send her to a different country. Maybe the news hasn't traveled that fast. So in a joint news conference with Poland, Vice President Kamala Harris, after a failed diplomatic entourage, I should say, was holding a joint news conference with the Poland Prime Minister and was asked by a Polish reporter, how many Ukrainian refugees will the United States take in? Since Poland has accepted 2.5 million Ukrainians fleeing the war. Kamala Harris, looking like a deer in headlights, all could do was do her stupid cackle and come up with, a friend in need is a friend indeed. She never did answer the question. That's got to make our allies just feel so warm and fuzzy that we have the United States backing. Idiots. Private plane carrying President Trump after an early fundraiser in Louisiana, flying over the Gulf of Mexico, its engine cut out and was forced to make an emergency landing. Isn't that amazing? A private fundraiser with a private donor's plane over the Gulf of Mexico. The plane engine catches fire and cuts out with President Trump, a future presidential candidate, cuts out over Gulf of Mexico and barely makes it back to Louisiana for an emergency landing. Makes you go, I wonder if they're trying not to have him as a presidential candidate. He did make it back safely. Another plane was found and he returned to Florida. Jussie Smollett in the news, claiming hate crimes against him because he's a black gay man, is now was convicted of fraud and sentenced by the judge. His sentence, 150 days in jail, plus 30 months probation, $120,106 restitution has to be paid to the Chicago Police Department to reimburse their time for the fraud perpetrated on the public, claiming that it was Trump supporters full of hate against black gay men. Found out different, didn't he? $25,000 fine also levied against him personally. When leaving the courtroom, he claimed he still didn't do it, he was innocent, and that for all intents and purposes, he's not suicidal, so if he's found dead in his jail cell, somebody murdered him. He didn't commit suicide. Blame Trump for everything. Here's one that'll really make you think twice about being in New York riding the subway. A homeless man in New York was caught harassing a female bystander waiting for the next subway train. The woman told him to get lost, and the man wandered off, went into a vacant subway rail car on the side tracks, dropped his pants, defecated into a plastic bag, returned back to the woman he was harassing, opened the bag and smeared his feces all over her face, walking away yelling, "Shit happens," while walking away from this poor woman. He was later arrested for the 23rd time and is on bail he was released without cashless bail for a pending prior assault attack. This poor woman, I'm telling you, she didn't deserve that, and this man should be arrested and not let out of jail after doing such a vicious attack like that. But that's New York, people. That's New York. Here's one that should get Fauci arrested, as well as other perpetrators of the Wuhan virus, just released. Wuhan cover-up. United States watchdog group releases 90 pages after a FOIA request from the State Department. They received 90 pages of emails between the State Department and NIH, funded by Dr. Anthony Fauci, warning them that China was hiding the facts regarding the Wuhan virus and how it spreads, and regarding the outbreak when it actually happened. The Fauci group knew of the outbreak, according to the emails, in early 2020, and also shows the funding for the Wuhan lab as far back as 2017, and also in the emails contain statements from the scientists saying that bats carried a lot of different viruses, but they did not carry the coronavirus as they said. This is a weaponized virus, folks, funded by Dr. Anthony Fauci. He knew about it. It goes back as far as 2017. The State Department also knew about it from Obama era and into the new administration, in which Fauci lied to President Trump. Fauci had no further comment, saying that further emails would reveal further evidence of his innocence. You can't make this stuff up, folks. Here is a man that should actually be tried, as well as the other scientists, for genocide. Saudi prince and the UAE's president, dictator, both refused to take the calls from President Biden himself, asking both of them, as well as OPEC, to pump more oil, lower the price, and sell it to the United States. Both the UAE and Saudi Arabia, Saudi Arabia and UAE both refused to take the personal call from Joe Biden and rejected his pleas for the OPEC to pump more oil to make up for the Russian embargo. So what does President Biden do? His administration holds secret talks with the dictator Maduro down in Venezuela, who is a mass murderer and committing genocide on his own people, asking him, "Hey, would you be willing to sell us some oil?" Maduro says, "Absolutely, I'll sell you all I want. I would love to become a newest billionaire on this planet." When that was found out, the United States administration under Biden suddenly says, well, we were just asking, making inquiries, when another secret talks came about that the United States approached Iran to sell us more oil if we lifted restrictions on their nuclear plans for bomb. You can't make this stuff up, folks. We're negotiating with our sworn mortal enemies to buy their oil and fund them, yet we can't drill. And Canada, Trudeau, says, hey, we can sell you more oil. We'll be happy to sell that. The United States rejects that plea. And finally, in Canada, finishing up with that dictator up there, Trudeau, the Freedom Trucker organizer up in Canada was released from prison after being held without bail and not even gone before the court yet, but she was arrested and held without bail on Trudeau's order. What was her crime? Committing mischief against an emergency order in which Trudeau basically said, I'm taking over the country. Martial law. Tamara Lich, L-I-C-H, was arrested February 17th, held in prison without bail. What was her crime? She was raising money through a GoFundMe page for the truckers, the Freedom Truckers in Canada. She was ordered released by the judge and ordered to leave Ottawa immediately until a trial date could be set up for, and she is ordered to check in via telephonically as to her whereabouts. Meanwhile, the United States convoy is circling the drain outside Washington, D.C., not allowed to go into D.C. as I predicted, because we have 12-foot high fences put up by Nancy Pelosi with razor wire, and the trucks are circling on the interstate outside the belt, outside of D.C. Ted Cruz and Senator Rod Johnson met with the leaders of the trucking convoy to hear their grievances, but again, the truckers are not allowed in D.C. Can't make this stuff up, folks. Welcome to Erie Shores Prepping, another edition of that. Welcome to the new subscribers. I thank you. Please leave your comments. I know this is a little long. There's always a lot of stuff. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Get yourself right with God. Get baptized. Greg out.